everybody, this is Heather Sides. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Spokane, Washington. I come to you live every Wednesday night with 3 new cards that I have made over the week, and I show you how I made them. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. And if you are a repeat offender, thank you for joining us again. I've said it before, but I love this little community that we're building. So you are a huge part of that, so thank you. So a few weeks ago, we got a kitten. Those of you who follow know that. And so I thought I'd give you a little update tonight. Let me turn so you can see this sweet little face. She's trying to escape right now. This is Goblin. And for those of you who are new, my son was out door dashing in the middle of the night and found her by the side of the road near some garbage cans, probably scavenging for food. She was about 4 weeks old at the time. And she was very, very skinny. And so he brought her in, and I took her to the vet to make sure, she was okay, that she didn't have anything wrong except, of course, being so severely malnourished. And the plan, the first part of the plan was to take her to the vet. The second part was to go ahead and take her to a shelter where they could find her a good home. And the second part of that plan didn't happen. She found a good home here. So she has been living with us now for about a month, Jackson? Yeah, for about a month. And those of you who've seen Jackson stamp, she's his little stamping buddy. She sits on his little lap while he's stamped. I posted a picture of that a little while ago. And so we're slowly but surely starting to introduce her. Listen, wild woman, little wild woman. We're slowly introducing her to Lucy. Lucy still gets a little excited, so you want to take her. Little fat tummy there. Thank you, Jackson. Lucy is still a little excitable when it comes to meeting her, so we have to be a little careful with that. But slowly but surely, we're getting there. So anyway, let's go ahead. I need a minute here to just turn on my big screen, my monitor, so that I can see your comments. Screen. Oops. Let's mute that. And speaking of comments, hang on here. My glasses fell on the floor, and I wanted to pick them up before Lucy picked them up for me because she eats them. Anyway, back to comments. So I love it when you guys participate in conversation, whether you are talking to me, asking me questions, offering me suggestions, talking to one another, asking each other questions, answering each other's questions, any of the above. And so to encourage that, every week I give out a prize to the previous week's conversation participants. So even if you're, content to just sit by the sidelines and watch what's going on, that's okay. You get to be included too. Just make sure you say hello and tell me where you're from. I love to hear where everyone's from. And if you are watching this on a replay, because, after this live, I save it here on my Facebook page and I upload it to YouTube. So if you are watching a replay, let's say that in English now. If you are watching the replay, then you still qualify to be in the drawing. So make sure you say hello, tell me where you're from. And I have some of you regulars who watch the replays, and I'd love to hear from you guys too. So make sure that you do. And then about an hour or so before I go live next week, I do a drawing, and during next week's live, I award the winner. So make sure you participate in the conversation. And, being honest, it does also help to tell the algorithms, hey, people are chatting, they're enjoying this. And it gets my video out there, and that helps me to build my business. So I would appreciate that. Also, if you can give me some likes and loves and hearts and that kind of thing during the video or at the end, that helps me too. It helps to feed my ego, and couldn't we all use that from time to time? And then also it does also help with the algorithms. So let's see, we've got several people here already. Oh, and Marsha shared my video. Thank you, Marsha. If you share my video, that helps me too, because it just puts it out there to other people who may not otherwise know about my videos that I do. And so it just helps to spread the word for me. And so I really appreciate that. So let's see who else here so far tonight. We've got John and Marsha. We've got Joyce and Susan. Let's see, Nancy, Mary, and I thought I saw Jason in there somewhere. Hey, Jason, welcome. Jason also is a crafty individual. He makes some beautiful stuff. So if you think to look for his page on YouTube, it's, is it still Jason Laux Designs, Jason? and look for his stuff because he does some very, very clean looking designs. If you like that kind of design, you'll really enjoy his because he does a great job. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and turn this camera around. Oh, one more thing I want to tell you guys before I turn the camera around. Look at me, I'm holding my glasses because you guys know how it is. I always wait and halfway through realize the reason I can't see is because I don't have them on. Today I'm holding them so that I remember. So anyway, one thing I want to give you a heads up on. Thursday, September 14th, I am having neck surgery. And I have no idea what that recovery is going to be like. The surgeon told me it'll be a lot like my shoulder surgery. And, you know, I was only out for a couple weeks when I had my shoulder surgery. So I'm hoping that's going to be the case. If I have the time, I'm going to try to get some videos made ahead of time and scheduled to go up so you guys get some new content every week. I can't promise that, but I'm sure going to try. But definitely watch my page for updates for when I will return. Because I'm just going to play it by ear. Of course, I'm going to return as soon as I can. I just don't know what that's going to look like. So we're going to be doing that. But that, let's see. So today is what, the 6th? So I will still be here next week. That's the day before my surgery. So I will still be here. And we'll still have a great time on Wednesday night. And we'll go from there. We'll see how that works. So let me turn the camera around. Today, Stampin' Up! Launched some really cool stuff. I want to share it with you really quick before we get going with our cards. And then I'll share with you what I have. So hang on just a second. Okay, get this all lined up now. Meanwhile, making you a little bit motion sick while I move the camera all around, right? Okay, and so now I'm crooked. So let's get this straightened out. Because you know I can't handle that when I'm crooked. Let's move this up just a teeny, tiny, tiny little bit. Okay, I think that's probably close enough because we know it's going to move throughout the video tonight anyway, right? Okay, so let's see what we've got here. Kathy's joined us. Oh, yes. So look in the comments there, you guys, in the chat. So Jason clarified, if you want to check out his YouTube page and his video, it's Jason Loucks Design. No S on the end. And for the spelling, it's Loucks. But you can also see it there in the chat. So, okay, so a couple things Stampin' Up! Has done. They released a new online exclusive today where it's some gorgeous new designer series paper. The only way you can buy them is online. They're not in a catalog, but definitely check them out. They're beautiful. Some of you guys may remember the translucent florals stamp set I used a couple of weeks ago. One of these papers coordinates with that stamp set, so it's really cool. I'm excited to buy that one. But check it out. You can check it out on my website, heathersides.stampinup.net. And then also another fun kit they just put out. I wish I had this in color. I don't have a color printer, but I wish I had this in color so you could see the colors of this kit. But it's really fun. I love that it's all the different Christmas trees, but look at this. There's palm tree Christmas trees and there's cacti Christmas trees. Isn't that awesome? I love it. I think this is going to be a really fun kit. You can check that out also on my website. I have a feeling it's going to go fast, though. It became available today. So if that is something you want to get, you definitely want to check that out sooner than later. A lot of times when they really promote a kit that's coming out, it does go quickly. This would be fun even if you've got a gathering coming up with your family, even for like Thanksgiving, and you know there's going to be a lot of people. You could buy multiples of the kit and then sit around the table after dinner or before dinner and make the cards together. Just some fun ideas there for the kits. So definitely check those out on my website. Let me move this out of the way. And then the big one today is the mini catalog released, and there are some great things in here. This is September through December, so of course it has lots and lots of really fantabulous Christmas sets in it. See, I can open it and show the inside now. There's some gorgeous ribbons. Like in the past, we've had like a white glitter ribbon, and we've had a black glitter ribbon, and now there's this navy one. In the Halloween section, there's actually a glow-in-the-dark paper and little glow-in-the-dark ghost elements. There's pumpkins. So there's everything from fall to the holidays that are coming up over the next few months. Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, all that good stuff. If you don't have a demonstrator that you currently work with, look at all these beautiful, beautiful things in here. There's the translucent flowers that I was talking about, that one of the new designer series papers coordinates with. If you don't have a demonstrator that you currently work with and you would like a copy of this catalog, let me know. I would be happy to put one in the mail to you. And oh, Jason just told me the glow-in-the-dark things that I was just telling you about are already out of stock. So keep an eye on the website, see if they come back. Do you happen to know, Jason, did they mention if they're going to be restocking them? Because to go out this early, I sure hope they are. Yeah, it's just some of this stuff just goes so fast because people, get on there and they know those holidays are right around the corner, so they get it right away. Hey, Cheryl, welcome. Judy, welcome. So anyway, fun stuff, some great new embellishments coming out. Like I said, some really pretty ribbons, amazing stamp sets. So definitely check that out and let me know if you need one. Okay, let's get going with our stamping. Let's see here. Oh, before we get stamping, let's do for our drawing this week. This week's kit, it has some of our white crinkle ribbon and some little epoxy dots, and then this really amazing designer series paper. It's so pretty. It's marbly. It comes in multiple colors. There's a blue and a kind of a turquoise. There's a yellow. There's this pink, and you've got the marbly print on one side. I want to cover that up because I don't want to announce quite yet. And then you can see the satiny print on the back side in this of whatever color it is. So you have a choice between the satiny print and the marble print. It's really pretty paper. So this week's winner is actually one of the YouTube watchers, and it's Lisa Marcelino. I hope I said that right, Lisa. I do not have your mailing address, so if you will give me either an email at stamphappenings@gmail.com, or you can send me a private message here on Facebook and let me know your mailing address, I would be happy to pop this in the mail to you. So congratulations, Lisa. The glow-in-the-dark embellishments, Jason just clarified, they are expecting them to restock September 25th and October 2nd. However, if those products do interest you, I would be prepared to order them that day because if they stocked out already this time around, they're going to go fast again. So, all right. Our first card tonight, we're going to use the Biggest Wish stamp set and our stylish shapes. You guys know I love this stamp set, right? I want to show you guys something really cool in the new catalog. And I can't think of what it's called, so I have to find it in here so that I can show you. But there is a Christmas end of year sort of stamp set that is that same style. Let me find it. I know it's in here. Does anybody know what it's called? Am I on the wrong? Nope, I'm on the right page, but I want you guys to be able to see it. I want to show it to you. It's so cool. Let's see if I can find it really quick here. I imagine it's going to be closer toward the end because it wasn't just Christmas. It was like New Year's as well. Let's see. There we go. There we go. So there's New You Year and Merry Christmas, Love Wishes to ! And then the cursive font. So lots of fun stuff in there that could actually be used year round because you could do the love you, just all sorts of cool stuff with this. So I am really excited to get this set. Okay, and the card we're going to make tonight, here is our sample card. We've got our coordinated envelope, and here's the card. I like this one because it's a little toned down in the colors, and it could be Joy to You is a good suggestion for that set, Susan. But anyway, this could be used as a masculine card, and we all know how hard it is to come up with masculine cards sometimes. Mary, you haven't gotten a catalog yet? Okay, I have your address. I will pop one in the mail to you. Okay, so let's get started on our card. I'll put it off to the side so that I can see what I'm doing. Let's start with the envelope. Okay, so I just take my well-loved piece of scrap paper. I'm going to take some crumb cake ink, and I'm going to take one of my blending brushes. As you know, I do not have a brush for every color in our selection. So I do have a brush that I try to use for yellows and browns, blues. I have one I use for blues, one I use for purples, one for greens. So you don't have to have, all 60 or have 60 brushes, one for every color. You can just, share, let them share. And I'm just going over this a little bit. And I kind of like that little bit of a mottled look. So I'm going to leave it like that. If I wanted more of a solid look, I could go over it a little bit more. I do like to go like this on my paper when I'm done, just to get some of that extra ink off, just so that when I throw it back in my bin, it doesn't get ink all over everything else. But I don't wash my brushes. It reminds me of when you season a cast iron pan. It kind of does that. It makes your color a little richer the next time around. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take the happy and the birthday, and we're going to take crumb cake and night of navy. And you know what? While we're stamping, we might as well take this little circle out, because we're going to stamp the same thing on that. Let's start with the crumb cake ink. If they ever choose to retire crumb cake, I'm going to be so sad. This is probably one of my favorite neutral colors. So I'm just going to stamp it sort of randomly around my envelope flap. I think that's probably a good number of times right there. You don't need a whole lot. Oops, I do this all the time. I just cleaned my stamp, but I'm going to need it for my little circle. So now to stamp it on the circle, I'm going to stamp it kind of toward the top, right up here. I'm going to put it right there. So it's not centered, and that's because, well, you'll see. I'm going to have a little bar that kind of goes across and underneath the word happy. And then I'm going to put away the ink pad because I get myself in trouble when I leave my ink pads out. See, Jason feels the same way about crumb cake. Jason will cry together if it ever happens. Okay, so now I'm going to ink up birthday. Now what I like to do is where I have the word happy and it's straight, then I put the word birthday diagonally over the word happy. And I like to do this with all the different ones. Happy birthday, thanks, all of those. And the key is make sure that the bigger word in the background is a light color so that your darker, the darker stamp really stands out and shows well. There we go. Oh, see, I kind of smudged there. I got a little excited and got ink all over my acrylic block. So you do want to be careful of that, getting too excited and getting ink all over. You guys, I have to tell you kind of the coolest thing. So, because I often throw caution to the wind and do some really dumb things, I decided to start looking into online dating. And I really can't give you any reason for doing that. Sometimes I just do things without thinking. Oh, see, I did it again. I cleaned off my stamp, and I still need to stamp over here. Again, I'm doing it at an angle. I have to be careful because the stamp is like just the right size, and I don't want to go off my edges. Okay, so anyway, so I decided to try this online dating thing, right? Oh, soft suede's a good one too. I also really liked Sahara Sand. I was sad when they got rid of that. So anyway, I went out to dinner with this gentleman the other night. And guess what? He knew what Stampin' Up! Is. Yes, he knew. And he knew what Paper Pumpkin is. Now, the reason he knew is because he's a postal carrier. And the Paper Pumpkin boxes sometimes drive him crazy because there's somebody on his route who I am guessing is a demonstrator and orders 4 of them every month. And 4 don't fit in her mailbox, and he has to get out of his truck and hand deliver them to the house. But it was really cool that he knew what Stampin' Up! Was and what Paper Pumpkin was. Okay, so our next step, let's do the inside of the card. I've got a piece of basic white. It's 5 1/4 by 4. And what we're going to do is we're going to take some strips here. I've got short ones and long ones. The long one can go on the inside. And I'm just going to layer them like this. You know, I like to just put a little something on the inside of the card. So a little stream of glue right there. Put it on there. And then I can kind of wiggle it around to just make sure it's straight and make sure, you know, it's semi-centered. There we go. And now I'm going to put it along the bottom here because my strip on the front is going to be going this direction as well. So I want to maintain that, be consistent. So we're going to just put this right here. And the colors I'm using are Night of Navy, and the Designer Series paper is from the Neutrals pack. And the Neutrals pack, you guys know I use them pretty frequently. You can get every color that's in that color family, and you get 4 different patterns of each color. So it's a really great way to kind of build up your stock of Designer Series papers with semi-neutral papers that you can use for a lot of different things. Okay, so. All right, I'll get my little monster feet here so I can put my glue away. Now let's go ahead and glue this to the inside of the card, which I guess is a lot easier to do if you've already prepared your card base. So let's do that. Just got my standard card base. It's 8 1/2 by 5 1/2. It is scored right in the middle there at 4 1/4. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to fold that, and then we're going to get a nice crisp edge with the bone folder. And there we go. Ta-da! I think that's kind of fun with the little polka dots. Now, let's go ahead and glue these 2 together just because I have them right here on the top. Okay. Again, just another little stripe of glue that we're then going to take this piece of crumb cake and put it right there. We're going to get it centered-ish. We strive for ish, not perfection. Because my life would be sadly disappointing if I found myself striving for perfection, right? Okay. Oh yeah, Jason, the Sahara Sand and the crumb cake were very beautiful together. You could do like a really classic card. Okay, so now I'm going to take my piece of crumb cake. This is 5 1/4 by 4, and my piece of Designer Series paper, which is just 1/8 of an inch smaller. So it is 5 1/8 by 3 7/8, and we're just going to go ahead and glue that guy down right now. Yeah, Jason, I don't think I use the soft suede a ton. I usually, when I do use it, it's an accent color. Okay. So we've got that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little happy birthday circle and we're going to glue that down. And I'm just going to put it right about, let's maybe make it just a little bit higher. There we go. And now I'm going to take this little strip right here, put some glue on the back. And the strip here is 3 7/8 inches long so that it fits perfectly across the Designer Series paper. And then it is, the Crumb Cake is a 1/2 inch, and the Night of Navy is 5/8 of an inch. Now, one thing I did on my sample that I personally liked a little bit better, so I want to point it out in case you like it better too. See how my circle comes down below my little stripey thing there? And I couldn't do that with this one, or I was going to end up covering up the word birthday. So if you like that, make sure you stamp your words high enough that you're able to have that circle come out down below. Okay, now what we're going to do is I've got a little bit of Baker's Twine here. You can buy the Baker's Twine Essential Pack. It comes with 5 little, I don't know what you want to call it, little rolls of Baker's Twine. There you get gray, crumb cake, just the standard kind of light brown of regular Baker's Twine. You get white and you get black. Jackson, will you do me a favor? The door was just knocking, or someone was knocking at the door, and I think it was probably the neighbor. So you just see, I wonder if we got a package or something, and that's why they were knocking for us. Okay, so what I'm going to do, before I adhere this to my card, I want to tie this around this little piece that I just created. So I have 2 lengths of my twine here, and I'm going to wrap it around. And I'm going to try to start with it being relatively even. And I want to try to get it so the center of my bow, so the knot of my bow is going to be right about here in this area that's a little bit, well, where there's more white, I guess would be the best way to say it. I typically try to pull it a little extra tight because you know when you tie your bow, it loosens up a little. So if you start with it that way, then you start with it tight, then it's not quite so loose when you're done. And then, of course, fiddle with my bow a little bit. And I don't like it when it twists like this. There we go. Make sure that my loops are about the same size. And then the other thing that you can do that kind of helps keep it from changing its shape, see, it's twisting like this, and that makes me sad. Too many other things in the world to be sad about. I don't want to be sad about my bow. Okay. Listen here, Mr. Bow. Got to show it who's boss. Okay, now what I'm going to do, just because I want to kind of make sure it lays the way I want it to, I don't always do this with my bows, but with this twine, sometimes I do find that it's easier. I've got a little glue dot that I used my Take Your Pick tool to pull it off, and I don't know if you can see that on the screen or not. It's too close, so you can't really see it. But rather than it keeping it in the circular shape, I kind of let it wad up, so it's like a little, just like a little roll. And I'm putting it on the back, right behind that knot there. It holds your bow in place. It also helps it to continue to lay flat, and it keeps it from untying. So now we'll go ahead and we'll put this on the card, and then once it's on, we can trim the tails of the bow. Our weather has finally started to cool off a bit, so Lucy is in 7th heaven because when I do my lives, I can open my sliding glass door for her, so she can just kind of come and go as she pleases. But those of you who follow regularly know that that means we're going back to me getting rocks as gifts because she brings them in for me. Okay, so my tails are pretty long there, so I'm just going to trim them. I'm letting them be a little bit longer than the card because I do like that longer hanging look there. I could sit here and play with that bow all night, and I need to just leave it alone. So anyway, here is our card. First card underway, quick and easy. So let's put that one away. Clean up the little bit of mess I made with this one. Mess wasn't too bad with this one, right? Okay, so our next card. Let's see. Our next card. This one is a fun one, and you may have seen this one already because I posted it last week on an Instagram hop that I participated in. but I saved it to make with you guys tonight. And I'm using the Beautiful Balloons bundle. This is a great set. You guys have seen me use it a time or two. I love the dies. I love that the dies aren't just for the stamped images. You know, there's dies here of other tassels, but there's also a die for the tassel that you can stamp. There's the tag. There's stars. This makes fringe. Some really cool stuff. I saw like a pinata looking card done with multicolors of this. Really, really cool. So it's a great die set because it really enhances what you can do with the stamps. And then also, I'm using a few other dies here. Now remember, when I use several different sets, don't be frustrated thinking you have to have all of them in order to make your card. Remember, you can tweak your card, make it your own. I mean, you can certainly copy and do it exactly like I have done it, but if you don't have the pieces that I have and you're not in a position to buy them or you don't want to buy them, play with what you have, see what you can do. For example, I'm using this scalloped contours, but I'm only using it for this one particular die right here. And then I've got the tailor-made tags. I wanted a little bit bigger tag for this card, but remember, there's a tag in this die set. So like I said, don't get frustrated thinking, oh my goodness, she used 72 different stamp sets and 38 different die sets. You don't have to do that. I do it because I have it and I can. And I want to make the most of it before it retires. Okay, so here's the card we're going to make. I thought this one was kind of fun with the blues and the purples. And this one is actually a little pocket card. It doesn't open like your standard card does. It opens like this. So you can write your little handwritten message right in there like that, and then just slide it right in like that. So, you guys ready to make this one? Let's start with the envelope. And again, my well-loved scrap paper. And we're going to be using the gorgeous Grape and Azure Afternoon inks. Oh, Susan says this is her favorite color combination. Oh, good. I'm glad. So I'm going to start with the blue. It's always a good idea when you're using multiple colors like this. It's a good idea to start with the lighter color. You don't have to, but sometimes when you stamp the images that overlay one another, the lighter one will pick up some of the color of the darker one, and then you get a little bit of mottled color. So if you do the lighter color first, then you don't really have a problem. So I'm just going like this, and I'm just kind of randomly stamping the Azure Afternoon balloons all over the flap of my envelope. Okay, set that aside. I'm not going to clean my stamp because I'm going to use it again here in a moment. Now I have my gorgeous grape. I love this purple. It's such a nice, pretty, real robust purple. I really like it. So now I'm going to go ahead and just stamp some of these purple guys. Oh, and maybe I want to have a little bit right there going off the edge. And then I've also got somewhere here, oh, it's crooked, so let's fix this. This is the string that hangs off of the balloons. And what I chose to do with this is whatever color the balloon was, that's what color string I did. Sometimes you can, what's kind of fun is to do the opposite. Like in this case, it would be to do purple strings on the blue balloons and vice versa. In this particular card, I chose to have them match. So now let's do those blue strings. I don't know if, yeah, that's going to show a little bit. Well, that one is kind of off center a little bit. There we go. Now we'll move that out of the way. And now I want to stamp that little tag that I punched out with my dies. And I'm going to do the same thing that I did on the envelope. So I'm going to start with my lighter color, which is the blue. And remember, when you go off the edge a little bit, it creates just a little more of a feel of continuity, like it's part of a bigger picture, rather than being confined to the edges of your paper. There. Maybe just a tiny little bit on the edge over here. There. Cleaning off these stamps really quick. And now let's do the little strings on our balloons. Try to line it up. There we go. Now do the purple strings. Be careful when you're doing something that's really narrow, like these strings. Oh, that didn't come out very well. When you're doing something narrow, like the strings, because if you wobble at all, I wonder if I can line this up. If you wobble at all, it doesn't give you a very good image. You get kind of like a little shadow sort of image. So be very careful that you're doing straight down, straight up. Okay, now put my ink pads away. Oh, and I still need my ink pads because now we're going to stamp this piece of basic white. And to tell you the truth, I don't remember what the measurements are, so let's check. It's 3 1/4 that way, by 5. So 5 inches by 3 1/4 inches. Oh, good. I'm glad that you like this, Jason. I really like this shade of blue. I think it's a really pretty blue. Okay, so here I'm going to take my message, which says, I think it's time for a celebration. I think it's always time for a celebration, right? And I'm going to stamp it toward the top, but centered-ish. There we go. And then I've got these adorable little confettis. And if I had my glasses on, I would know which direction they were going. Okay, let's see. I guess it doesn't really matter what direction your confettis are going. But you know me, I've got to make a big deal out of things that don't matter. Okay, so doing a little bit of confetti off to the side here. And you could put a little more to the top and a little more on the sides if you wanted to. I didn't want it to be too much. I wanted to leave this room for writing. Okay. Now, make sure that I stamp on the inside of my card because I don't want to put my ink away. Because I didn't show you guys the inside. Oh, duh. It doesn't have an inside because it's the pocket card. You guys, I'm out of control today. I am simply out of control. Okay, so let's put that purple away. And I'm going to go ahead and adhere my piece of basic white onto my gorgeous grape, which is 1/4 of an inch bigger. So it's 3 1/2 by 5 1/4. And line it up so that's centered-ish. And we'll just set it aside for the moment. Now I have my card base. This card base is a little bit smaller than what you would be used to. First of all, it's cut the hot dog way, which is where you cut your cardstock in half lengthwise. So it's 4 1/4 inches wide, and it started out at 11 inches long, right? Because that's the size of my cardstock. But then I don't know if you can see the bottom edge of my paper, but it's 9 1/2 inches long. And then what I did is I scored it at 5 1/2 inches so that I can fold it this way, and that creates my little pocket. So where did I put? There's my bone folder. Let's get a nice sharp edge here. And I'm going to take tear and tape. I really like tear and tape for this kind of a pocket because it's going to get jostled a lot as that piece, the insert gets pulled in and out. And so the tear and tape is a nice, strong adhesive. The other thing I like about it is it's quite narrow, so it doesn't take up a lot of space on the inside of my pocket. There we go. If you got this month's paper pumpkin kit, you'll know that in this month's kit, there was a roll of tear and tape that was 1/8 of an inch wide. This is 1/4 of an inch, but it was 1/8 of an inch. And that made me so happy because it gave me hope. See, here it is. Look at that, nice and narrow. I would love it if Stampin' Up! Came out with this in our standard product line too, so you had the choice of the 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch. So if you like that idea and you are a demonstrator, make sure you go to the, what do they call it, the sandbox or whatever it's called, where you can put your ideas and let them know that you like that and would like to see that become a part of the regular line, because I think that would be very cool. Now what I just did is I took my bone folder and I went over my release paper. What it did is it just pushes that adhesive into the paper a little bit better. So one, it's on there really good, but two, it does make it easier to pull my release paper off. I also use my take your pick tool to get right under that edge, and it comes off really easily. Some people will just use their fingernail. I prefer to use my take your pick tool, which, as you know, I use for darn near everything. Okay, so now I've made the pocket. Now, you know what I should have done before I did that though? I should have stamped my balloons in the background. I didn't, so let's make it work. I'm just going to take a piece of paper right there and line it up so that when I stamp off this edge, I'm not stamping onto this part of the card. So I'll just put that right there. I'm going to get my Azure Afternoon out again. And I'm going to get out both of the balloon sizes that I was using earlier, because now both of the balloon sizes are going to be made with the blue. I'm just washing it again because it looked like there was still a little bit of that purple on there. Okay. And now this time around, it doesn't matter if you do your big balloons or your little balloons first, since you're using the same color. And I'm kind of doing a random sort of pattern on there because I don't want it to look too much like a pattern. So I don't know what you would call that. If it's not a pattern, then it's not a random pattern, right? Okay, so now I'm going to take the little balloons, and we're doing the same thing that we did on the label and on the envelope flap, where I'm letting some of them overlap. Some of them will overlap, some won't, because I don't want it to look like I did the exact same thing everywhere. You know what I mean? There we go. And now I'm going to go ahead and clean this stamp with my little string. I did not do a good job of cleaning my stamps when I stamped all this with the other parts. Okay, so now I'm just going to stamp all my strings onto all the balloons. One thing I really like about this particular stamp set is when you do, I just stuck my finger right in there. When you do overlap the stamps like this, the one in the back still kind of shows through, just like it would with real balloons. So I love that. There we go. You know what I think I'm going to do right here? Let's have, oh, I guess it won't matter. I was going to put the bottom of a balloon string hanging down right there, but that's going to be covered up anyway here in just a moment, so no point in doing that. I'm just taking a moment to really try to get the stamp clean this time. Okay, we are done stamping now. So now I have this little strip that I die cut using the, why can't I think what they're called? Scalloped Contours die. to put right on this edge here. And we have lots of die sets that have that kind of an edge. You could hand cut an edge like that. You could do it without an edge. You could even just do a plain strip. So there's lots of options. So that's just an example of what I was talking about, where I said you don't have to use all the exact same products that I did. However, if you feel like, yes, I have to have that product, I love that, I know where you can buy them. Okay, so we're just lining this up with the very top of the card. And you know, an argument could be made for doing this before I folded the card over and taped it, you know, used my tear and tape to tape it together. Because then I could make sure to line it up against the edge just so. Excuse me. Okay, so I've got my little purple edge there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, I've got, let's see, you know what? We can still go ahead and put this right in there. And when you do a card like this, you do want to make the insert piece quite a bit narrower. I do not mind at all, Jason. You just case away. And I would love to see what you create. Okay, so you do want this insert piece to be a little narrower than what you would normally leave for margins when you've got a mat behind it, because remember, your tear and tape takes up some space in there where we close this, and that is why I was saying that a narrower tear and tape would be really cool. It gives you just a little bit more width to play with there, but it's not a crisis if you don't have it. Okay, so now I'm going to take this beautiful azure afternoon ribbon. I'm going to tie a little bow. Remember, pull it a little tighter than you need, because you're going to just as part of the process, you're going to end up releasing it a little bit so it's not quite as tight. So if you start out with it too tight, then you're still good with however it ends up. Okay, so I've got my bow. Fiddle with it a little bit till I get my loops the size that I want them. I have found that when I stick my finger in the loop like that and pull the tail to make it smaller, it does help. It doesn't loosen up that middle part quite as much. I don't know why that is, but that seems to work for me. So hopefully that might work for you as well. Okay, I think I want to have my loops just a teeny tiny bit smaller. There we go. See, you pull it tight and then they get big again. So you kind of got to play with it a little bit. Last time, I think. Okay. So now I'm just trying to get it to lay the way I want it to. This is really great ribbon, and you can get it in our lemon lolly. You can get it in the bubble bath, or you can get it in this azure afternoon. And I just don't like the way that's laying. It bothers me. And I actually wonder if I try to straighten it out a little, if that might help. Sometimes just changing the angle of it, all of a sudden it lays the way you want it to. Now this little blue fuzz on me. Okay, we're going to leave that alone for the moment, but let's go ahead and trim the edges. And I can already see I cut them a little shorter than I would like, at least that one anyway. So I'm just going to make my loops a little bit smaller. Do these look like, this one looks like it's a little bit long, doesn't it? Okay. And now this one's a little long. You guys, we could do this all night, just trimming it up until I have nothing there. Okay. Now, we'll set this aside for the moment. And I have our little tag that we made. I've got a little bit of our silver trim, and I have two lengths of it. I have a longer one and a shorter one. We're going to actually use the shorter one, so I'm just checking them Okay, I guess it's not that much longer anyway. But all I'm going to do is I'm going to feed it through the hole in the tag and then around the center of my bow, like this. And I'm just going to tie a little knot. I recommend a square knot. Square knots won't come loose quite as easily. There we go. And now I'm going to trim off the edges. Don't trim too short because you don't want it to end up untying just because you trimmed it too short. But in this case, I didn't want them to be long and show, because I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. I don't want that knot to show either, because knots can be ugly. So I'm taking one of my glue dots and I take your pick tool. I'm putting it on that knot right there. And then I'm going to kind of just manipulate it a little bit so that it comes around behind my bow. And now my bow is going to hide it. Now, if your bow is being wonky, like mine is, it's not very cooperative, what you can do is put another glue dot down there to hold your bow in place. And I think actually I may end up doing that because this bow has just been being really funky with me tonight. It's just laying funny. And I'm going to need to trim those again because I made my loops smaller, which meant that my tails were kind of out of proportion with my loop. Now this is sliding around, so another glue dot back there will also help keep my tag from moving where I don't want it. So I just put it behind the knot and then push it down. Now another thing that's going to hold things in place is I'm going to put a few dimensionals on the back of the tag. Let it pop up a little bit. I got my little garbage can. And now I'm going to put my tag at a bit of an angle. I like to put things at angle. I think it just adds a little bit of interest. So it's just like that. You guys know that later tonight when this is all done, I'm going to come back and fight with this bow some more because that's just what I do. One part of this is being weird. See, I think that might be why I'm having trouble with it because it's twisted. This particular, okay, I'm gonna let it go. Pretend I'm Elsa. I'm gonna let it go. There we go. There we go. And now, last little bit. Well, not the last little bit, but close to last. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? Just because I thought this was cute, it added a little extra something on those. Labels on the dies. They have the little circles here. There's a name for these little circles. And I used to know what it was, and I can't remember, and put it around the circle where we put our thread through. Now, the smart thing would have been to put that on before I threaded the trim through, which I did not do. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the scissors and just snip it really quick. We're going to put a tiny bit of glue. Don't need a whole lot. Now, snipping it like that will allow us to just kind of move this around that trim there. Because, see, it'll pop open a little bit. Kind of like links in a necklace, where one link kind of opens a little bit to make room. And then you just want to move this around before your glue starts to dry. Take your pick tool, line it up with the center, there we go, of that hole. And nobody even knows that you cut that little center, that little bit of the circle, you know, unless they watch this video. But I doubt they're telling anyone because they're probably doing it too. Okay, now I've got, well, I had a couple balloons. I wonder where my other balloon, oh, there it is. So I've got two balloons. before I do anything with them, I'm going to take my Wink of Stella, because we could all use a little sparkle in our lives, right? Reinforcers. Yes, that sounds like what those are called. Those little circles, reinforcers, because the purpose of them, in case you didn't know, is they reinforce that hole. So like when you have a binder, a 3-ring binder, and you have holes like that, it makes it so that constant use doesn't cause the hole to tear open. Okay, so now I'm just taking my Wink of Stella and I'm coloring my balloons. Now my Wink of Stella is kind of juicy, and the only thing I don't like about when it's really juicy like this is, especially on the lighter color paper, it does kind of give a little bit of a grayish tint to your cardstock. So if you don't like that, what I do is I color it around like this, and then take a tissue. I know I have a tissue around here somewhere. I take a tissue and then just kind of go over it. What that does is it just kind of, while it's still wet, blends it in a little bit better, so you don't have quite so much of the silver making it look gray. I noticed I didn't have it around the edge, so that's what I'm doing right now. Okay. Okay, so I've got my my balloons, and I'm also going to put dimensionals on those. But before I do that, what I'm going to do is put my glue away. I have this extra piece of trim. Remember, I had 2. So now I'm going to take this and I'm going to cut it in half. And I'm going to glue it. I'm going to use a glue dot to stick it to the back of my balloons so that it's sticking down. And actually, you don't even need to use a glue dot. Use your dimensional to hold it in place. So, I've got my ribbon right, or my trim right there. And now my dimensional, which I was going to put a dimensional on there anyway, right? Now the dimensional will hold my string in place. So now what we're going to do is we will go ahead and put our balloons on the card. I chose to have mine overlap the tag just a little bit. That. And then where my string came down to the bottom of the card, like this, I'm just going to trim it. And like in this case, it's sticking up. You know what? If you stick a book over this or something for a little while, it'll flatten out. This twine holds shape really well, which is sometimes kind of a little bit of a pain. But it also works to your benefit in a case like this. The other thing I could do is put them together like that. It makes it a little wider. And put a little tiny bit of a glue dot, wadded up glue dot under there. And I think actually that's what I'm going to do. So here we go. Roll up the glue dot. You want it to be very narrow because the twine is still pretty narrow, right? And pull them together like this and hide them. Hide that glue dot right behind. Look at that. Like that. Okay, so that's that card. You've got your insert, you've got the front. You could do this in so many different colors and variations. It could be a birthday card, it could be Christmas card, you know, whatever. Oh, good, Teresa. I am happy that you liked that that tip. Okay, so that is that card. We've got our envelope. I'm going to put this card away so that I quit fussing with that bow, clean up my mess, and we'll get going on card number 2, or card number 3. Okay, this is another one that I used quite a few different pieces, or stamps and dies, and remember, you don't have to. So I'm using the Magical Meadow stamp set. This is new in the catalog that just released today. I'm very excited about it, and it's coordinating dies, Magical Meadow. This coordinating die set comes with lots of dies. You've got the ones that will cut out your stamped images, and then you have some that will just create some foliage for like backgrounds and such, which I love. I'm using the Go-To Greetings, mainly because I didn't want this specifically to be a winter or Christmas card, and all of the sentiments in this set have to do with winter weather. So I pulled out a different greeting set that I had. And then I also used my time-worn type embossing folder just to give a little bit of background texture to my card, and you're going to see that in a moment. Let's put away these pieces. I love this card. I love the colors. And I just realized 2 of my 3 cards almost look blue and purple, except this is actually Night of Navy, but I'm seeing on my computer screen it looks purple. Okay, so there's our envelope, the inside of the card. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll do our envelope first. We're going to do some stamping again. It's not very often that I stamp all of the envelopes. And you know, I think I've mentioned before, I have this ugly little bin that I bought at the dollar store. And I keep in here all the stuff that I use all the time. I've got my different adhesives that I use a lot. I have my bow jig, I have my scissors, my Wink of Stella, all the things that I use a lot. And I just keep them in this bin. And then whenever I'm stamping, I just have this bin next to me. So I also keep my piece of scrap paper in there. And when it gets too ugly, I'll throw it away and get a new piece of paper. But for the time being, it doesn't hurt to use an old one. Okay, so the stamps that I'm using, I've got this one right here. And see, the thing is, I could see this even being a springy set. Even though the sentiments are wintry, the stamps themselves, you know, depending on the colors you use, could be springy or summery. It just depends on what you do with it. So for this one, the colors we're going to use are Night of Navy. Move the stamps out of the way for a moment. Night of Navy and Misty Moonlight. Now, I did notice when I was stamping this that at first when you stamp it, the colors look very, very similar. Because I know when I stamped it at first, I thought, oh, I don't like that. You don't get a lot of dimension there because the colors look the same. But as you can see, as the paper starts to absorb the ink a little bit, the colors do start to stand out apart from one another, and so you can see the difference in the color. So I'm going to start with a couple of these guys and just kind of go like this in sort of a random thing here. I'm doing the corners, and I'm doing the corners the same, but I'm not too particular about their exact placement. And then I'm going to move that out of the way, use my Night of Navy, and I'm going to use this pretty one. Something that I thought would be a really pretty idea on this one is if you were to use like little rhinestones of whatever color for the berries, that would be really pretty. Not necessarily something you would do mass produced because it would take a lot of those rhinestones, but just an idea for you. Okay, so now we'll move our envelope out of the way. For the inside of the card, well, actually, let's start with the card base. My card base is a standard card base, 8.5 by 5.5, scored in the middle at 4 1/4. Let's go ahead and take care of that and then set this aside. Now, instead of using basic white, I chose to use vanilla. As we move into the fall, a lot of people start seeing it as a fall color to replace the white because it's just a little softer, a little warmer. I personally like to use it year-round, but just wanted to put that idea out there for you. Oh, and I just stuck my fingers in my ink pad. Guess it was time for me to do that. I do it every week. And I hadn't done it yet. Okay, I'll see. Isn't that pretty? But you know what? If you don't end up with ink all over yourself, are you really stamping? Okay, so in the corner here, I'm going to do the same thing that I did on my envelope. Only I just accidentally did the opposite. I did the little bow there in the navy. Did I? They look very, very similar when I'm looking at this way, but no, I did it right. I used my Misty Moonlight to do the bow, and it doesn't really matter which one you use. I just wanted to be consistent with what I did on my envelope. Okay, hang on here while I just try to get this stamp clean, which I don't know why I'm cleaning it off. I'm going to need it again. Now with my navy, just like that, and set that piece aside. And then I have these little squares. They are 1 3/4 inches, I believe. Yep, 1 3/4 by 1 3/4. And 2 of them I put on crumb cake, and I fed through my embossing machine with the time-worn type embossing folder. Hey, Kathy, welcome. And I'm going to set those aside for the moment. But I have 2 squares that are the 1 3/4 by 1 3/4 on my very vanilla. And I'm, you know, kind of basically doing what I did everywhere else, where I'm kind of doing the pieces that, you know, the 2 bow pieces go the 2 separate directions, and then my, boop, and then the other piece comes right up the middle. Okay. Stamps like this do have, because they have so many little fine details, they do take a little bit more TLC to get them nice and clean. So go ahead and, you know, allow yourself to take that moment, pick up your chamois and get those little edges. You'll be glad you did. It only takes another, you know, few seconds, but you want to get your stamp clean, because especially when you're working with dark colors like this, you don't want those dark colors still lingering around when you go to use it the next time, and maybe you want a light color next time. Okay, so now I'm just gonna right up the center like that. There. So again, cleaning off my stamp, getting Night of Navy ink all over my hands. By the way, when you do that, because let's face it, we all do, right? I use lava soap. I just buy mine on Amazon. It's like $4 for a bar of it. And it gets the ink off your fingers really, really well. Another thing that gets it off your fingers really well is go wash your hair. No joke, because the hair against your skin with the soap, yep, cleans off your fingers really, really well. But since I don't plan on, you know, washing my hair tonight, I'm going to be using my lava soap. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and, whoops, I don't want to put this one away quite yet. One more little bit of stamping to do, and that's my sentiment. So let's see here. My sentiment is hidden in here somewhere. There it is. So I'm making this a little thank you card. So I have this, what I did is, I think I lied to you when I said that on my scalloped contours stamps, I just used that one for the other, the one die, I'm sorry, for the other card. I did also use it for this card. And it's this little one because that made my label. But then I also cut a little piece of very vanilla. Look how it looked like okay, let's try this again in English. I look like I'm turning into a Smurf. Okay, so this is just a little piece of very vanilla. Now this is going to be tricky because it is cut like exactly the size I need. There we go. It's a little bit crooked, but we're going to go with it anyway. By the way, I mention this every now and then, and I just want to remind everybody, if you have a particular technique, a particular stamp set, a particular style, color, whatever, that you want to see me do something because you just want to see someone else use it, you want to see how it might work for you, whatever, let me know. Send me a message, either my email or here on Facebook, and let me know, because I would be happy to try to accommodate what you want to see. So now I'm going to go ahead and line this up right there. And I'm noticing that the little circles that are cut out, the little holes, a couple of them didn't pop out when I die cut it. So just take your pick tool and poke them out. Okay, now we're putting the ink pad away because, you know, I couldn't possibly get any bluer. Oh, and I am realizing I had gems for the last card that I forgot to put on. So we'll do that. Someone remind me, don't let me forget to put those on the balloon card when we're done with this one. Okay, so I've got all my little pieces right there. Now we can start assembling the card. So we take our card front. We're going to go ahead and glue this in. Did you guys see that? I didn't even think to glue it in right away like I usually do. How very well disciplined of me. I guess it's not disciplined if you just forgot to do it. I just always do it right away, or try to do it right away, because I lose things. Okay, so centered-ish. And now I have this square here that is 4 inches by 4 inches in Night of Navy. This is Misty Moonlight, by the way. And I'm going to take my squares and I'm going to try to line them up. For me, this gets tricky because I don't like my margins not being the same everywhere. And when you're putting down several pieces like this, it's hard to really know how far everything needs to be from the edge.With this time-worn type, when you have, an embossed image that has a lot of texture to it like that, it is helpful if you use the liquid glue. It kind of seeps into all those little cracks and makes it easier for the glue to really get in there to hold your piece in place well. Now, our seal is a very nice, strong adhesive, and it works well also, but I do find that the liquid glue just, I don't know, gives me a little bit more reassurance, and that could be totally in my head. So now I'm just putting these in here and I'm lining them up with one another, trying to make sure they're straightish. And it's really bugging me, that blue all over my fingers. And I'm noticing I did this opposite of what I did with my sample card. My sample card, the vanilla pieces were right here and here, and the crumb cake was here and here. So I'm not quite sure how that's going to make the foliage look when we line it up, but we're going to go with it. Okay, so now I have these two pieces of foliage that I cut out with my dies, and really all I'm going to do is I'm going to glue them down onto here. But let's go ahead and put this on the card first. That'll help give us some good idea of what our spacing looks like. I'm getting close to running out of adhesive here. Okay, so what I did is I lined this up so that my left, right, and top margins are relatively the same, because of course there's this big gap down here, so it's not going to be the same. Then I'm taking these two pieces, and one thing you can do that's with really delicate pieces like this is use our adhesive backing, adhesive paper, I think is what it's called, and you put it on the paper before you cut the die, and now you've turned the die into a sticker, and it makes it really easy to stick it down. Now that requires thinking ahead, and as you know, I don't always do that. So I'm going to take a little bit of my liquid glue, and you don't have to put it everywhere, just in some key spots will be sufficient. So I'm putting it behind the little berries. I'm putting it behind where pieces come together, just because it's a little bit bigger piece right there. And let's see, we'll put that one right about there. And then we have this other one. This one has a little bit bigger pieces. Little bit goes a long way. So, you know, on these spots, there's such a teeny tiny amount of glue. It actually works okay, because you're putting it in so many places that it really, each little bit that you're putting on there, each little bit of glue, is really just reinforcing all the other little bits that you've put in there. So you don't need, you know, one piece that really sticks well. Okay, now this one, I'm having it kind of go the other direction, like that. And now I'm going to take my little thank you. We're going to put some dimensionals on it. And I'm overlapping both the square and the bottoms of my little pieces of foliage that I put. So that way, if they're lined up kind of wonky, crisscrossing, it doesn't matter because it's covered up. Then I'm going to take, I've got some of my linen thread. I love the linen thread, but it's very, very fine. And so sometimes just a single bow is a little bit tough. It's just not as full as I would like. So a lot of times when I use my linen thread, I do a double bow. And I'm using my little bow jig. This is not a Stampin' Up! Tool. It's just something I bought on the internet. And there's all different shapes and sizes of them. So you can find, just Google bow maker. Or go on Amazon. I'm sure you can get something on Amazon. My thread wants to go that direction, so fine, you can go that direction. Whoops, I didn't want to do that. That's how I lose the nails, if I just throw them in that little bin. Okay, so I've got my bows here. Did I do this the right size? Yep. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of pull these apart. This is what's going to make my bow just a little bit more substantial by pulling those little loops apart. Now I'm going to take my glue dots and my take your pick tool, roll it up, because again, the knot on our bow is going to be very small, so you want to be able to hide your glue dot right there behind the knot. I'm going to pull my loops apart a little bit one more time, because that glue dot will pretty much hold it in place because it's so tiny. And I'm going to put it just up a little bit on my little plants here. Well, that ends up looking like they're not there. Okay. There we go. And yeah, it goes over the word thank you, but that's okay. And really, I don't even need to trim my tails. They look like they're right about the same length, which is a miracle in itself. That is pure accident that they're the same length. And then it's fine enough because it's such a dainty twine that you can still see your message through it just fine. And then the last step on that is we're going to put some gems on there. So let's take these. This is the Tinsel Gems 3-pack. This is in the annual catalog. And I'm going to take my Take Your Pick tool. I like these little medium-sized ones. I'm going to put a few on here. Maybe put a couple on the side. And then one over here on this one. And now this card is done. So again, that card came together pretty quickly as well. Several pieces, but really most of your time is just spent putting them together. So we've got card number 3 done here. And let's put those embellishments on the last card that we did really quick. And then we'll take a peek at everything that we've made tonight. So these are adhesive-backed sparkle gems. And I love these. You've got silver, black, gold, and then you've got the 2 different sizes. So let's put a few of these silver ones on here. Let's see, put one right about, kind of worked its way up on my Take Your Pick tool. And let's see. And then we'll put a couple small ones on there. Put one maybe right there on our tag. And one right there. Now it's done. Got to put those little embellishments on there. They're just that little extra something, right? Okay, let's clean up the mess. We'll take a look at everything that we made tonight. Oh, you know what? One more card. I didn't put the embellishments on the first one either. Let's do that. So for this one, I took my classic matte dots and I actually took my light pecan pie marker and colored them. When you color your embellishments, it seems to me like it works better if you use a darker color because they do color on the embellishments really, really light. So I used the pecan pie rather than the crumb cake. Let's put these right here. Maybe one right about there. There we go. Okay, now I mean it. Now they're all done. So let's clean up our mess, take a peek at everything that we've made tonight. Remember, if you had fun and you enjoyed what we did, be sure to like it, to love it, to share it with friends, all that good stuff. If you don't follow me yet on here on Facebook or on YouTube, make sure you head over there and do that. And if you subscribe, you hit that little the little bell icon, then it gives you notifications when I upload new things. Okay, so there's the cards that we made tonight. All very, very different, except for I just noticed these two are pretty much the same colors. That's kind of funny. So I hope you enjoyed them. I always have fun with you guys. This is my favorite part of the whole week. So I hope you guys enjoyed it too. I am looking forward to seeing you guys next week, where I will come up with something else fun and creative for you guys. Have a great week, everybody.